Billy Napier could save his job this weekend against Miami. Yeah, good luck with that.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. The real game day game is in Salt Lake City. Everything to know for that one on today's show. Plus, USC is very underrated at the moment. Should be on your radar. And some more picks across the Big 12. All on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Alex Dono, Locked On Canes, is here. Game day is going to be there. You know what? I'm happy for you, Dono, and that's literally it because I can't stand this decision by ESPN. I hope as a result of this atrocious move by the network and depriving the great fans of Bloomington of College Game Day, where they absolutely should be. If you didn't want to go where Big Noon is up in Salt Lake, okay, fine. You should be in Bloomington this week. The fact is they're not. I hope Miami beats the brakes off of Florida for that very reason. I think they are going to. They're 7.5-point favorites. I lean towards the Canes. I look at Billy Napier and say, you know what? If you go win this game on the road, if you go win this game against a top 5 team that's already beaten Notre Dame, yeah, you do save your job for the moment. I can't see it.
Yeah, and for the moment is key because Florida fans, obviously they'd love to win the game. I think they would have mixed feelings about Billy Napier preserving his job because he preserved his job last season, and then they get right back on that carousel with poor results to start this year. And yeah, Spencer, Miami has every reason to win this game comfortably. I will say that sometimes you throw out the records when it comes to rivalry games, and I'm just being fair here to Florida because I've watched them play a lot this year, the Gators, and it's a team that can't get out of their own way. I mean, Florida has had so many self-inflicted wounds. Everybody saw the stat.
5 interceptions.
Lagway, 5 interceptions, against USF, who, Miami beat comfortably the following week. But when Florida lost to USF, a ton of dumb penalties, and they lost the turnover margin in that game as well. So I was a little surprised when I saw that Miami's only favored by 7.5, but maybe the thinking is if Florida can just cut out a few of the mistakes that they've made in recent weeks, that they have enough talent to keep it close. But on the Miami side, Miami's just been absolutely rolling so far. Offensive line has been as good, if not better than expected. Defensive line, I think, has definitely been better than expected. I mean, Ruben Bain has been one of the best graded pass rushers nationally, and Akeem Mesidor on the other side has been great. The two of them have been borderline unblockable. Miami's defense has looked a lot better. Like, they haven't been consistently tested as much down the field because the pass rush has been so good. So we're going to get more answers on the back end over the upcoming weeks. But the front seven's been great for Miami, and I think the biggest story, and you look right now, Carson Beck is actually the odds-on favorite for the Heisman Trophy because he's been off to a really good start at Miami. Overall, been making good decisions, developed a lot of chemistry with receivers like C.J. Daniels, who has a couple of circus catches every single week. Malachi Toney, the true freshman, has been lighting it up. So far, everything's been rolling for Miami. I guess the question I would have is maybe we don't see it in this particular game, but they haven't trailed at any point so far this season. So we haven't seen how they deal with that. They've been leading, or in the case of Notre Dame, they were tied 24 in the fourth quarter, but they haven't trailed at all so far this season. So we haven't really seen them overcome adversity. They've been front runners in every game they've played so far. We'll see if that's something that comes into play this week or not.
I think the encouraging thing if you're a Miami fan early in the season, there's a long way to go. Last year was 9-0, 10-0, 9-0 to start the year. So certainly, though, this feels more sustainable than it did a season ago. You were in a close game against a good team with a really good coach, and you executed enough and found a way to win. And then you played another good team who you have more talent than, and you beat them really badly. And Gave me another one of loss in my best bets of the week. But I'm making a comeback this week. But mark my words. The comeback is on. So I think that they have looked how you would want or expect a top 5 caliber team to look so far. And it's the trench play to me that has been so good that, is allowing Miami to be as good as they are. You mentioned Ruben Bain. I don't know who's blocking that. If Notre Dame is not blocking that guy, I don't know who is blocking that guy this season consistently. So here's the thing, and I'll give Florida a little bit of credit here, and I want your thoughts on this. The offense, just a total mess in so many ways, and both sides of the ball have had some penalty problems. You go back to that South Florida game, the game-winning drive, they had a guy spit on a player to give him 15 yards. Pretty sure that was on that last drive. It's been really bad. The Florida defense, however, kind of looks like the group that's playing to their potential. I haven't watched Florida's defense this year and thought, man, they need a new defensive coordinator. Miami fans know what that looks like, and you got a new defense coordinator. It looks like it's a whole heck of a lot better. I think this is a comparable test to what they did against Notre Dame in terms of the caliber of defense you're going up against. But the flip side of that coin is, will you be set up on the plus 35-yard line because DJ Lagway just gave you a turnover? We'll see. I think that's a really important thing for Miami to do in this game to build a big lead. But I do think that Florida defense is a valid test for this Miami offense.
Yeah, especially when it comes to defending the pass. This is going to be a good test for Carson Beck, who, the last time he played against Florida, obviously Beck was on a different team, different offense, different situation. But at Georgia, he threw 3 interceptions against Florida last year. That was one of his multi-interception games. So he's going to want to have a cleaner game against Florida. Now, one thing that is going to be a concern for Florida on the defensive side is Caleb Banks, their best defensive lineman, who made a comeback from injury against LSU, re-injured the foot, and he's going to be out, and it may be a rest of the season thing for him. So, thankfully, Miami's not going to have to go up against that guy. And Florida, to this point, I think maybe the stat's a little bit misleading, but they are 123rd nationally in sacks so far this year. Now, part of that was, the easy game that they had against Long Island was a triple option team. Doesn't give you a whole lot of opportunities to sack the quarterbacks, but pass rush didn't do nearly enough for them against South Florida and against LSU, even though the rest of their defense played well. And if you give Carson Beck a lot of time to throw, which he's had so far behind Miami's offensive line, he can pick defenses apart. So I'll be interested to see if Florida can generate pressure consistently, because up to this point, Carson Beck has completed 79% of his passes. He's off to a great start at Miami. And, I think Miami is going to try to establish the run as they always do. And I think they're going to have one of their top 3 running backs, Jordan Lyle, back this week. We thought Lyle was going to come back last week. He was a late scratch. So we think he's going to be joining Mark Fletcher, who had a big game last week, and Marty Brown is kind of the 3-headed backfield. And then also will be interesting to see how much success Florida has on the ground, because they've got, their offensive line is run blocked well, and Jaden Baugh has had some good moments this season. But Miami, they held Notre Dame to under 100 rushing yards, which is pretty impressive. They held Jeremiah Love, I think, to like 40 yards.
I do think some of that was poor game planning from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree.
They did not have enough of a game plan in there to get Jeremiah Love the ball. It was difficult when he did touch the ball against this Miami defense. I just think that's an important note in there. I want to wrap real quick with our predictions here, Dono. I think Miami wins. I think there's actually a good amount of defense played in this game. I've liked the Miami defense this year. I don't know what I have to feel good about for the Florida offense. I mean, 2 straight games, they're scoring under 20 points. I don't know how they're going to suddenly get over that threshold against Miami, but maybe DJ Lagway and that talented group of receivers finally put it all together. But I'll take Miami 27-13.
This is the first time this year that I'm going to be making a pick that sounds like a homer pick. I was pretty conservative in my pick for USF versus Miami, and Miami, blew them out of the water. I was pretty conservative on my Notre Dame pick. I had Miami by 3. They won by 3, but there's just something about all the vibes in Gainesville, Florida right now. And also their running backs coach got suspended for hitting an LSU player before the game. Like, that operation is such a mess right now. And DJ Lagway is just in a funk. I think Miami's going to be getting some takeaways galore in this one. And I think they're going to really outmuscle Florida. So the pick that I've made, and this will be I'm tripling down on this week, Spencer. Last year, Miami beat Florida 41-17 in the Swamp. I'm going Miami 42-16 this year at Hard Rock Stadium. It's going to be blowout city down there.
Blowout city. You know what? I like the vibe. I'm upping my score prediction. Miami drops 34. 34-13. We both like Florida to win, Miami to win. Definitely not Florida. And then the Billy Napier hot seat talk will resume once they lose by double digits to a respectable team. Again, Alex Dono, Locked On Canes, and ACC, great as always. The real game day game is in Salt Lake City. Everything you need to know. Am I going to pick against my Texas Tech Red Raiders? I'm so tempted. First, this episode brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. You know what? Why not? I'll shout out Mark Gronowski, the Iowa quarterback. They went for over 40 points. Yep, it was against UMass, but they're going to need that same sort of energy this week when they travel to Rutgers on Friday night. Sneaky, interesting game on Friday night in the Big Ten. And how about Diego Pavia? He just wins. He has made Vanderbilt a winning program. Those guys delivered for their teams. DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Check out DoorDash today. If you want to bet on any of these games, if you think that I'm a buffoon and you think there's money to be made, hey, you can fade the picks. Go for it with FanDuel, of course. The NFL season's here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. They've got all the college football you need. Every game I talk about on here, I get my lines from FanDuel. Why? Because they're the official sports book of the Locked On Network, and they have got odds, they have got point spreads, they have got money line, they've got all sorts of stuff, a bunch of great prop bets as well. They even have a Josh Pate category on there. They've got everything. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Check them out at FanDuel.com. At least Big Noon is going to Salt Lake City, and they recognize how huge of a matchup Texas Tech and Utah is. JT Wistersill, Locked On Utes, Chris Level, Locked On Texas Tech, here to break down the big game. I'm conflicted in this one, fellas, because I rode the Utah wagon for a second straight year. I feel pretty good about that right now. On the other side, I'm like this close to abandoning Oregon and just becoming a Texas Tech fan at this point because I've given them so much praise in the offseason. So, JT, I want to start with you. Your confidence level that Utah wins this game is what?
I'm feeling good. Percentage-wise, I'll go 60% Utah. I think it's a really good Tech team. That being said, when Utah has their projected starting quarterback, Spencer, you did a good job highlighting this earlier in the week. They just have not lost a true home game since 2017. The losses last couple of years, backup quarterbacks, and even the other losses, COVID losses. This team is just really hard to beat at home, even though it's an early kick. Devin Dampier looks as advertised, and at the very worst, he's a clear upgrade over Isaac Wilson. Do think it's a top 5 offensive line in college football. One of the best run games in the country. Tech actually has one of the best run defenses, so that's going to be a really fun matchup. But this Utah defense, Utah hasn't played good teams, but they've beaten them like you should badly when you are a good team. Love the way this Utah defense is playing. I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup on Saturday.
Chris, it's kind of the same story for Texas Tech, right? They have looked the way you would want them to in a season that has legitimate Big 12 title and playoff aspirations in Lubbock.
Yeah, I think, we don't know anything about either one of these two teams. That's just, I think that's point blank. I think you've played glorified scrimmages. I'm not so sure that Oregon State couldn't have beaten UCLA. But I think Wyoming is probably the best team that either one of these two teams have played. I think Utah clearly has a better resume than Texas Tech at this point because 2 of those games have been on the road. This is Texas Tech's first road trip. But what gives you confidence if you're Texas Tech is you've got a starting quarterback that's played in this league for a long time. He's 17-4 as a starter in games that he started and finished. And, you know, I know that they've got weapons on offense. I know they'll be able to score some points. I don't know if this is going to have to take 31. Is it 24? Is it 21? What kind of game are you going to get into? And honestly, it may come down to, can Texas Tech run the ball when they want to? And can Devin Dampier throw the ball when he wants to? That's what both teams are going to try to do to each other, in my opinion. And whoever answers that question probably wins that game.
Gosh darn it, Chris. I want to come into this game and pick Utah, and then you drop a 17-4 stat at me with Baron Morton. He's healthy, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I drop one?
JT, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
the
go
other
ahead.
way, Baron Morton, in his last 3 games on the road against top 25 teams, he's thrown 5 interceptions to just 3 touchdowns.
Oh.
He also beat an undefeated Iowa State team last year in Ames, Iowa, when he wasn't healthy, and they went on to play for a Big 12 title. So I have no concerns about Baron Morton throwing it to the other team, because we know JT's guy threw it to the other team a lot last year.
Here we go. Okay. So JT, let's talk about Devin Dampier. It has been impressive. By the way, Chris, the Oregon State comment warranted. Can I get out of watching Oregon State UCLA right now? That hypothetical? Yeah, yikes. Yeah, even if we got to my dream world of college football where we have promotion and relegation, if those two teams in a traditional Pac-12 showdown, RIP, were playing, I don't think I'd watch. I would text Blackerby and just say, I'm not covering that game on my show. I will not.
And it's sad because
it is.
Like, I know Deshaun Foster. He was here as a running backs coach under Cliff Kingsbury. He's a good dude, but it just went off the rails quickly there. And Oregon State's a proud team. And what has happened to them in Washington State, it's just sad. It makes me frustrated as just a college football fan. But it's a different sport, different economics and things like that right now, as we know.
Yeah, I hope they'll both be able to catch up one day. Washington State also. Oh, not great last time they took the football field. Let's get back to this one, though, JT, because Devin Dampier, I think it's fair to still wonder, what is he against a real Power 4 school, against UCLA? Yep, look great. UCLA got trounced by New Mexico. And look, Jason Eck, real good coach, but that UCLA team had more talent than New Mexico, but they did not have the requisite coaching to be considered really a Power 4 team on the field. So what are you looking for from Devin Dampier in this game to go out and get a win?
I do want to see him deliver on 3rd and long, because I do think he's going to be put in that situation frequently. When Utah played UCLA, they were 16 for 18 on 3rd down, because they were all 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, like just short and manageable.
Hold on, they were what?
They were 16 for 18 on 3rd down.
Oh my gosh!
We just got to talk about what a glorified, in some ways, FCS team UCLA was. So
16 of 18.
Yeah, it's and Spencer too is where that offensive line comes in. Like, everything's available when you're in 3rd and manageable. This is a really good Texas Tech defensive line. I said it earlier, but this is a top 5 run defense, and Utah has a top 10 run offense. So I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup to watch. And I do think there's going to be times where Tech wins the line of scrimmage 2 plays in a row. So then you are in 3rd and long, right? And then it becomes, hey, these transfer wide receivers, your tight ends, these guys who have not proven it against a top 25 caliber defense, which Texas Tech clearly has. Can they make plays on the outside? I think Utah will get just enough plays from them, but that is clearly a question that this team does need to answer.
Chris, the best way to disrupt any quarterback in the history of the world is get him under pressure. One reason I was bullish on Texas Tech as my preseason number 1 team power ranking in the Big 12 is that they beefed up their defensive line in the transfer portal. Do you feel good about how that unit is playing going into this matchup?
Yes, but it's all about context and who they've gone against. But Romello Height and David Bailey, I think they've totaled 30 quarterback pressures in 3 games, and they've only played 7 quarters of the season so far. So, but the thing about Dampier is that sometimes it's when you pressure him, that's when he can hurt you the most. And that's what you have to be careful about. That's why, in my opinion, the other than Baron Morton, the key player for Texas Tech is the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in the preseason, Jacob Rodriguez, the middle linebacker. Because is he spying? Is he will heavily factor into whatever goes on good or bad, for whatever Utah does on offense and Texas Tech's defensive effort. But you're very stout. And I know that as good as the offensive line is, and I think JT will agree, analytically, I think JT would say this, maybe their center is maybe the one guy that you're not as certain about. And lining up over him will be a second-team All-Big 12 defensive tackle from last year in Lee Hunter, who's 320 pounds and very good. But you know what? We're probably spending all this time talking about this matchup. It may be the inverse. How is Utah's defensive line versus what Texas Tech tried to put together on their offensive line? Can they give Baron Morton enough time to hit those weapons and all that? If they can't, everything else we're talking about may not even matter.
JT, give me your one key and your score prediction for Utah and Texas Tech this Saturday morning.
I think get pressure on Morton. I mean, you look at it, his PFF grade drastically drops when he's pressured. He's 86% in a clean pocket, 35% when you get pressure in his face, and he has not performed as well on the road as he has at home. So I think the goal is to get pressure on him, and also for Utah, control the line of scrimmage, because theirs is going to be a fantastic matchup. Chris has done a great job of highlighting all week. There's going to be a ton of NFL personnel in attendance to watch how much elite talent is on the field for both sides. To me, Utah will get that pressure. This being a massive home game for Utah, the crowd is going to be ready to roll, and I think Utah, in large part due to Devin Napier having a huge performance in this one, barely beats Texas Tech 28-27. It's going to be a great showcase for the Big 12 Conference.
Chris, one key, one prediction.
Prediction wise, I'm on the radio call, so I'm going to stay away from the score.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. We'll let you off the hook.
But I've given you kind of the questions to ask, and if either one of those gets answered by either team, I think that goes a long way. But here's a fascinating thing about going into this one, because JT calls it a close game. I think 42% of Big 12 games last year were one-score games. How confident does either coach feel about a game-winning kick or a meaningful kick at the end of this thing or in the middle of the fourth quarter? JT's guy was 1 of 4 last week.
Shaking his head.
And Texas Tech is going to come into this thing having 2 kickers that they're still trying to sort out who their guy is, and neither guy is really flinched. They have a holdover in Stone Harrington, and they have one of their portal guys that came from Buffalo who was 19 of 21 last year, but he hasn't outright won the job. So far, they've been kind of rotating them, which seems kind of stressful to me. Like, okay, you got a meaningful kick here. You got to go win a game. Who you sending out there? And I don't know if I know the answer to that. So if it is a close one, what if I offer up that? Like, who feels better about their kicking situation? So in the altitude. So there you go.
Yeah, Utah is a really quick, Spencer. True freshman kicker in the big noon spotlight, having just missed a couple last week. That does terrify me from a Utah perspective.
Yeah, special teams, that third side of the ball can come and bite you. I have been so bullish on Texas Tech all offseason. I have gave them all the praise that they deserve. My preseason number 1 team in the Big 12 power rankings here at Locked On College Football. I love the Red Raiders. I've been to Lubbock. I enjoyed my time there. I would go back.
Utah.
I would go back again.
He's about to pick Utah.
I'm going with the Utes.
Let's go.
I'm going with the Utes to beat Texas Tech 27-23 in Salt Lake City. You cannot, in good conscience, pick against Kyle Whittingham, for goodness' name, for a moment there in Salt Lake City. I just cannot do it. JT Wister still locked on you. It's Chris Level, locked on Texas Tech. Enjoy the game, gentlemen. USC in the Big 12. I'm going to make it work for the last segment. Just watch. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breath work to studying plays, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but every day. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, Mazda has what you need. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the players for your favorite team, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. There's another one of those games that I've talked about because every coach that's early in his tenure, first or second season, sometimes even in the third, is looking for a moment, a victory, a game, a feeling that encapsulates the fan base, that lets everybody know, hey, this guy is on his way. Jeff Lebby got one earlier this year like I thought they would. I didn't think it'd be against Arizona State, but I sensed it was going to arrive, and lo and behold, it did. Mississippi State should be ranked in the top 25. They are not, but they beat Arizona State, and suddenly Starkville looked around and went, wait, we just beat the reigning Big 12 champs who had most of their team back from last year? Whoa, we might have something. Michigan State's looking for one of those this week against USC. It's not going to be easy. It really isn't. This is going to be one of those games where if Michigan State, who's a 17.5-point underdog, according to our friends at FanDuel, against USC in Los Angeles, if they're going to pull an absolute stunner, and don't hear the point spread and think that Michigan State couldn't win the game. Oh, they absolutely could. I mean, Vanderbilt against Alabama, Kentucky against Ole Miss, South Florida against Florida, just to name a few examples over the years of massive underdogs who have gone on to win the game outright. Michigan State is a team that at its core, when Jonathan Smith is your head coach, they want to run the ball, they want to use play action, and they want to play good defense. Those are the three core tenets of a good Jonathan Smith football team. Well, Aiden Childs has been playing improved football this year. That's the good news for Sparty. Here's the bad news. What were those three things? Run the ball, use play action, play good defense. Ah, yes, the defense that conceded, let's say, too many points to Boston College. It was a win. It was a thriller in East Lansing. Now you go on the road, 2 time zones away. There is something, and this is an old school Pac-12 head coaching matchup. Jonathan Smith, Lincoln Riley, there was a time when they were in the same conference and it wasn't the Big Ten. Here they are. So Jonathan Smith is not seeing Lincoln Riley for the very first time. At the very least, will this be one of my best bets of the week? Hey, you're going to have to tune into tomorrow's third segment to learn that particular piece of information. But maybe I haven't decided yet. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about Michigan State and the points. Jonathan Smith knows Lincoln Riley. They want to take the air out of this game. You do not want to get into a shootout. If you do, USC is going to run away with it. USC last week played well. Not perfect, not great, but they played well. They went on the road. They didn't cover. I should have made it a best bet. I didn't. I thought about it, but I was never thinking USC would cover. So I didn't have a big reaction to them only beating Purdue by 16 points on the road. So second straight week, USC is a sizable favorite, and they're facing a program that's in the early stages of a rebuild, and beating USC would be a significant moment for the other side. USC's quietly been playing good football this year. They don't have a marquee win just yet. They finally reached the top 25. I would have had them there before the season. I predicted them to go 9-3 this year. I feel good about that prediction right now. I really do, because they're playing pretty well on both sides of the ball. Jaden Mayava is averaging over 300 passing yards per game, and the Trojans look like a team that is a Tier 1 program in the Big Ten, which is, of course, what they're supposed to be. So USC playing Michigan State, I think USC wins the game. I'm not sure if I'm making this a best bet. I'll take Michigan State to do enough to hang around, but USC's offense is too much of a wagon. And the problem, and why this probably won't make it in my best bets this week, is that Michigan State's defense is not a unit that I trust on the road 2 time zones away against USC's offense right now. I just don't. This looks like an old school, if that's really a term, Lincoln Riley offense. It wasn't last year, and this season, it looks like a group that has really got a good identity, rhythm, and flow to them. It's early. This is going to be their most significant test. This is the best team they've played so far. They played 2 easy ones and then Purdue, and now they play Michigan State. I think that this is a solid test, but not a huge one for USC. So I'll take USC to win that game comfortably. Let's say 42-20. 42-20, and I might adjust that score prediction. Tune into tomorrow's show to find out. A couple other games in the Big 12 I want to talk about. Kansas and West Virginia. Kansas getting West Virginia in a emotional letdown spot after the high last week of winning the backyard brawl. Highly considering Kansas to win by a lot. I think Kansas is a good team. I think they ran into a good second half from Missouri on the road, or else Kansas would be ranked inside the top 25 and undefeated. But first Big 12 game, Kansas looks like the team so far this year. I thought they were last year when I picked them to go 10-2 and make the Big 12 championship game. I think they're an 8-9 win team this year. They look that way. But I think Kansas can win that game big. Here's the game you got to keep an eye on, though. And you've already heard about Texas Tech and Utah, of course. We know that. Baylor, Arizona State, huge game. Huge game for the Big 12 championship race, because this is a matchup between two teams that can very reasonably, despite some rather notable and bad for the league non-conference losses, haven't played a Big 12 league game yet. Arizona State in Baylor, the Bears are favored by 2.5. Boy, this is a big spot for Kenny Dillingham and company. You want to avoid the emotional letdown season? This is a moment to showcase you're going to do that. Whoever wins this one is in the Big 12 championship race. Whoever loses it, I think, is probably out, because you'd have to go unbeaten the rest of the way. The Big 12 has just got so much competitive depth. I don't know that you could do that. This should be a really good quarterback game. Sawyer Robertson, Sam Levitt. I'd lean towards the over in that one. I think FanDuel's got that as a pretty big 59.5. Yeah, I think I like the over in that spot. So in that one, I'm taking Arizona State. I don't trust Baylor's defense, and this game will come down to which defense can make that one critical stop. I trust that to be Arizona State more, despite the Mississippi State game, and maybe even because of the Mississippi State game, than I trust Baylor. I can't get behind that Bears defense, even at home. So I'll take Arizona State to go in there and win. And then watch out for this one. Watch out for BYU at East Carolina. This is only a 6.5 point spread in favor of the Cougars, who are a great defensive team and whose offense has been more than sufficient so far. This is the toughest test they have faced to date. They are 2-0. They've played Portland State and Stanford. So how good are they? I don't know. If you look up at the end of the day and they have won this game by 20 to 30 points, we'll have a good idea of just what BYU is capable of. Because East Carolina, respectable Group of 5 opponent, it's a long road trip. And I think that for the Cougars in this spot, you can very easily get tripped up if you are not careful. You better be careful. You have to be careful. And this is one of those games that can't prove, see, we're the best in the Big 12. You can prove, hey, fans who have been scarred by upset losses and defeats that shouldn't have happened too many times, we're past that for this year's team, even though we're starting a freshman quarterback. That's what you can show. Because teams in the regular season that have traveled several time zones away, be it non-conference or in conference, it has not always been pretty. It can get really, really difficult. You're going all the way across the country. Long way to go. Long way to go to take on the Pirates in the American Conference. So I think BYU wins. I don't think that is easy, but I like Arizona State over Baylor. I like Kansas big over West Virginia. TCU plays SMU this week. I think I like TCU to roll. I like TCU. Some people had them power rated high enough coming into the year to have them be seen as a Big 12 championship contender. They look like it when they went to North Carolina, who's not a very good team, but TCU played like a Big 12 championship contender would. Now they get SMU, and the league also could really use a quality non-conference win here. Even if it's even if you're chipping away at an iceberg, even if you've got 5 inches of ice and there's a $20 bill in the middle, yeah, you'd like it to be a $100 bill. You'd like it to be 3 inches of ice, but if you can even knock 1 inch away, you do it. You do it. Make it just a little bit better. More picks coming on tomorrow's show. Jackson Arnold returns to Oklahoma. Oh, you don't want to miss that conversation. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.